Hey guys, Mustang here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video. And so yesterday I put out my very first tier list video. I guess I keep saying it's a tier list, but it really is more of a top 10, because tier lists, obviously when you look at the tier list maker, normally you have separated into tiers of certain values and then you put multiple units in each one. So I guess it is really more of a top 10, but I keep referring to it as a tier list, so I'm probably going to keep doing that by accident, but there you go. So a lot of people in the comments and on Twitter and stuff like that asked to see one for summonable LRs, because yesterday's one obviously was for Dokkan Fest exclusive TURs. So I decided to put together this list. I decided to only include the yellow coin banner, summonable LRs, because when you throw Dokkan Fest exclusive LRs into the mix, obviously it changes things fairly significantly. But because they're available from different kinds of banners and they kind of are in different leagues, there are certain units on this list that I would say are better than some of the Dokkan Fest exclusive LRs. But I think once you get to a certain point on the list, all of the rest of it would be the Dokkan Fest exclusive one. So let me know what you guys think. I can always maybe redo one that includes them, or maybe do one of just the Dokkan Fest exclusive LRs. I don't know if are there even 10 available on global, because bear in mind this is for global only, so I don't think actually we are any summonable LRs. Oh no, I was thinking the anniversary ones are different, aren't they? So you got the two main anniversary ones are Dokkan Fest exclusives, and then the secondary ones, the Team Universe 7 and the 17 and Frieza. So obviously they're not included on the list. But just like yesterday, you can see the full list here, but we are going to go through very briefly from number 10 upwards, discussing my picks. And just like yesterday's tier list, I want to stress again at the beginning, this is all solely down to my opinion. A lot of it is based on my playtime with the units. So some of the noticeable ones that are missing here that you might think deserve a spot in the top 10 over some of these units. One of them is the AGL Nappa and Vegeta, the other one is the Int Rose. I'm not sure where I would place them on this list, and partly that's because I don't have them. So other than seeing videos of them, I've not really used them myself. So I could potentially see myself revising this list in the future, but this is what I went for when thinking about it, when making this video. So starting from number 10, we have LR Bojack. I've always been a big fan of LR Bojack, and I feel like he was criminally underrated for quite a long time. Finally, with the STR Bojack coming out, giving him a really, really good team to be run on, with a really good link partner who also provides support. I think a lot more people are seeing the value in this LR. Even at 55%, he can be really good. He's really strong defensively, and obviously the lower your HP, the more the defense boost he gets. So in a tight situation in one of the harder events, he can actually have very, very solid defense. So I do think Bojack is really good. I still think he's underrated, but I think, again, with a lot of things, kind of like the number 10 spot on yesterday's list, I could easily be convinced that another unit maybe deserves the number 10 spot instead. But when making this list, I decided to give it to Bojack. So moving on to number 9, we have the Super Saiyan 2 girls, Kale and Caulifla. Now, when this unit came out, they were basically the best unit in the game. A lot of people weren't happy about that because a lot of people don't like Kale and Caulifla, but they're insanely good. And I feel like their position on the list can differ solely based on the event that you're playing, right? So for example, the legendary Goku event is the top one that springs to mind, but if you're playing in an event where the enemy is Universe Survival Saga or a Pure Saiyan or both, these guys are absolutely ridiculous because they super attack 4 times in one turn. Every time they're attacking, they're building up their defense and their chance to dodge. So in a long form event, they get to the point where their defense is so high they basically can't take any damage, and then chances are they're going to dodge half the time anyway. Of course, in an event where that isn't the case and you're not fighting Universe Survival Saga or Pure Saiyans, they are still very good because obviously they are still raising defense on either of their super attacks. They guarantee to launch an additional normal, and then of course based on your hidden potential investment, they are an AGL unit, so even at 55% they do have that chance to do a free secondary super attack as well, even if you're not fighting against those specific enemies. And then again, every time they attack, they build up their dodge chance as well as giving themselves extra ki. So even at 55%, they can be really, really good. Again, I can see them argued being in a higher or lower position solely based on the event that you take on. Like in the Legendary Goku event, for example, I would argue that they are better than probably the next maybe 2 units on the list, maybe even some of the other ones, just because of that specific event restriction. So again, I could see them being in a different spot solely based on the event that you play. So next up at number 8, I put Spirit Bomb Absorbed Goku. He's a unit that can be very interesting depending on the event that you play as well, because in harder events his defense isn't necessarily that great. He is a nuking style unit though, of course, so if you can pick up a ton of orbs, then obviously he is able to get really high defense. He greatly raises his defense on 12 key super as well, so in a position in a harder event, or maybe if you're facing like type disadvantage or something, you can deliberately go for his 12 key super, which then of course is going to give him the greatly raise. Or if you get lucky and get like the best RNG turn, the best turn for him is getting his 18 key super and then additionaling into the 12 key, because like a lot of LRs, obviously, his 18 key super is the one that's going to do the most damage, but his 18 key super also lowers attack and defense and seals. So his 18 key super is really, really useful. And then, of course, the 12 key greatly raises defense, which is super useful in certain examples as well. He is also an orb changer. He changes orbs to rainbow, which makes him really useful on teams like Movie Heroes and some of the other teams. Connected Hope as well for the new Pycon. Like, he's really useful on some of the teams that he's on, and even at 55% he can hit some ridiculously high numbers. So moving on to 7, we have the Tech LR Broly. I was unsure about this guy, whether or not to put him higher or lower, because I think in his best case scenarios he can look better than Vegeta and maybe even Gohan. It all depends. I have one dupe in mind, and on the right team, like in a good setup on the new Broly team, for example, the new Saiyan Dokkan Fest Broly, on the turn where you use his active skill, which can be done straight away after transforming into the legendary Super Saiyan, which can be done on turn 4, I've seen him hit like 10 million attack stat just linked up with Broly and then a support unit in slot 3, and that's with mine having one dupe. So when it comes to putting out damage, he is an absolute machine. The only problem with him is, of course, his lack of defense. So he raises defense when he super attacks, so he's really not a good unit to have in slot 1, but once he gets that super off, he does get a little bit of defense. He, of course, does have the guaranteed additional super when facing 2 or more enemies, so this man can be an absolute monster when it comes to Super Battle Road. One strategy for Extreme Tech is to use a friend Broly, even though his leader skill is obviously bent more towards Resurrected Warriors and only gives 100% to the rest of Extreme Tech. If you can find like a rainbow friend, if you go into one of the fights where you have like 3 or 4 enemies and this Broly super attacks 3 times thanks to the extra super from the hidden potential system, he can just absolutely wipe the field. The only downside to him, like I say, is the fact that he's not super good defensively. So in some of the harder content, he can still be really, really good because he puts out an absolute ton of damage, but I think he's not higher on the list just solely because of his defense. But yeah, I'm crazy impressed with the numbers that he hits, even at like 79%, 69% mine is. Even at 55%, he was crazy good, but there we go. So next up, we have the Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta. I could easily see people maybe not agreeing that he shouldn't be as high on the list. There is a little bit of bias because I'm a huge Vegeta fan. Like the moment from his active skill, like the "You Are Number One" Kakarot thing, is one of my favorite moments in Dragon Ball Z. And I really like how the card works. I really like the Super Saiyan 2 team. Now, obviously, he is restricted by having to have a Goku from the Majin Buu saga on the same turn, but there's a couple of really good ones to use, like the Int transforming one that transforms to Super Saiyan 3, as well as the physical Super Saiyan 2 support unit is the one that I use them with as a rotation on the Super Saiyan 2 team. He's a really solid unit on his own. And whenever you are going to be getting the unit super attack with this Vegeta, then obviously he is really, really good. He greatly raises his attack, does make colossal damage, lowers defense. He does raise defense when he attacks as well. He's just really, really good. Like, he's restricted around having to run a specific Goku, and I think that's maybe why he's not higher on the list, and that's why I could see people argue that he should be lower. but on the turns where you can get him going, because I wanted to look at this list, I took into account their worst case scenarios, but I wanted to mainly focus on like their best case scenarios. So obviously linked up with a Goku, like full 24 key super. This guy is absolutely ridiculous, even at 55%. As soon as he was added to the coin shop, I'd been saving yellow coins for ages, and picked up my first dupe for him because he is really, really good. And yeah, he definitely has one of the coolest active skills in the game, especially for if you're a fan of the ones that reflect those hype moments, not necessarily just based on what they do. His active skill is probably one of the top ones. So moving on to the top 5, at number 5 we have the Tech Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. I really, really like this unit. Some people were a bit underwhelmed when he came out because of his restrictions. To get his full potential, you have to have a movie hero's Goku on the team. And obviously, his active skill could make him insanely powerful. Basically guaranteed a 24 key super and a ton of extra attack. The only thing I think is a downside to this guy, but it doesn't ruin the card or anything, is he has that secondary part of his passive where you get an additional 59% attack and a guaranteed crit if your HP drops below 58% when there is a movie hero's Goku on the team. The problem is this can activate mid-rotation, and because his active skill has a very similar restriction, what you really want to do is start the turn with him under 58% HP and use his active skill and then have that attack boost and guaranteed crit in the same turn. Whereas if his passive triggers mid-turn, he gets that attack boost in the guaranteed crit, and then obviously if you haven't healed up by the next time he comes around on rotation, you get the active skill, but the passive part is already gone and done, which I think is a bit of an oversight with his kit. If it was up to me, I would change that so that it couldn't activate mid-turn, so you're always getting it with the active skill. But the reason why I put him so high on the list is he doesn't need the movie heroes Goku to be good. I did a video back a while ago with the Super Saiyan 2 team, everyone on the team full level 10 links, and I used this Gohan as a 3rd slot floating unit, if you can believe that, and even there in that position he was insanely good. If you take him into Super Battle Road, and you can pick up a decent amount of orbs because he is a nuker as well, he gets extra key per key sphere obtained, so it's super easy to get his 18 key super. He raises defense on every super attack and has the potential to do built-in additionals even if you don't have dupes. So if you pick up a reasonable amount of orbs, if you're going into Super Battle Road and you target an AGL enemy with him, he can just one-shot them immediately, which is really, really good. And then of course he can multiple super, each one raises his defense, so whilst he's not great in slot 1, post super attack he is really, really good defensively as well. So moving on to number 4, we have Jiren. I could see a lot of people argue that Jiren should be higher. I don't have Jiren. I obviously know how ridiculously good he is, and I might be slightly biased by the fact that I really don't like or care about Jiren as a character, but I know, like, I tried to base the list on how good they are, because for me, I probably would have put him below Gohan and Vegeta just in terms of, like, the units that I actually like. But, you know, I'm trying to make this list at least somewhat credible, and I think people would be pretty mad if Jiren wasn't at least in the top 4, because he is obviously insane. He is the typical blueprint caveman unit. He just has an insane amount of attack and defense straight away on turn 1. He does also build up key. He has a very easy restriction to be able to become effective against all types. I think the only reason that he wouldn't be higher on the list for me is I feel like he's really restricted by his teams. Because he is on Universe Survival Saga and Realm of Gods, but his links kind of make it so that you really want to be running him alongside units like God Topo. And whilst you can run him on Realm of Gods, I don't know if that's a strong enough main rotation compared to some of the other crazy units that are on there. Now, obviously, on Universe 11, or like Space Traveling Warriors, where one of the best rotations you can run in terms of damage output is this guy alongside God Topo, then obviously he's going to shine and look like one of the best units in the game. But just for me personally, with the teams I like to run and how I like to build my teams, I would not put him any higher on the list than this. But I can obviously agree and understand with anyone who would consider him to be slightly higher than this. So moving on to the top 3. This is the one that's obviously had the biggest change recently, and I'm sure you guys know why. You can see him sat there at number 2. But for number 3, we have LR UI Goku. So this one took me a little bit of time to decide where I wanted to put him and the STR LR Broly. And they're both ridiculously good in their best conditions. In Super Battle Road, obviously Broly is an absolute monster, can just come in and destroy everything. He's not super good in slot 1, although they did give him a lot more defense now. So he is very much a slot 2 or 3 unit who just kind of rolls up and destroys everything. The reason why I put UI Goku obviously so high, everyone knows UI Goku is a ridiculously good unit. Even at 55%, this guy coming out made any Super Battle Road stage that he's on immediately so much easier. Like, Realm of Gods used to be, when the OG stages were out, one of the hardest ones to get the no items run. And then they released units like this guy, in LR God Goku, STR Whis, all these units that have a ridiculous amount of built-in dodge, who then essentially, as long as the RNG is on your side, just don't take any damage. And this guy, he's a little bit inconsistent. This is something that I've discussed with Truth on the podcast before. The reason why I could never put this guy at like best unit in the game is because he's so RNG dependent. So if you go into an event and there's like 5 attacks in slot 1, you can put this guy in slot 1, and if he dodges every single one, then he's going to look like the best unit in the game, because not only did he take no damage, every time he dodges, he obviously gets that stack of his passive, and he's going to hit a ridiculous attack stat on turn 1. But if you go into that same situation, but you get super unlucky and he doesn't dodge any of those attacks, then not only does he still take damage, he doesn't take crazy damage, but he can take a lot, especially from supers, and then his follow-up super attack, he obviously doesn't then look like the best unit in the game. So he can be a little bit inconsistent based solely on RNG. But, you know, at his best, he's absolutely insane. His link set is really, really good. Even outside of teams where a lot of other people have Tournament of Power, he has Prepared for Battle and Over in a Flash. Obviously has Kamehameha. Like, he fits on a lot of teams and is just really, really strong. And like I say, any category Super Battle Road stage that comes out that this guy can be on, he's going to be one of your best units to bring. But for Broly, obviously, given his easy A, he is now an absolute machine. The amount of damage that he puts out, especially when you're fighting a pure or hybrid Saiyan, is absolutely ridiculous. He gets attacks effective against all types and guaranteed to hit when there is a Goku family enemy, which obviously that later part, the guaranteed hits, is specifically designed for the Legendary Goku event. It means he can't be dodged by UI Goku. So he is able to put out an insane amount of damage. And I could honestly see arguments for him being number 1, but the number 1 spot goes to LR Turles. Currently my favorite LR in the game. I am absolutely blown away by how busted this guy is. I have him at 55%, and linked up with the AGL Turles, the amount of damage that he does and still has reasonable defense at 55% is absolutely ridiculous. For people that are on global, if you don't have this guy, absolutely he should now be the number 1 LR on your list that you're saving your yellow coins for. As soon as he gets added to the shop, I'm going to buy a dupe for him straight away. Like, he's so good at 55%. It is absolutely ridiculous. Once you get to turn 8, or if you're below 60% HP, which in Super Battle Road, I've done this on video before, you can literally do on turn 2 if you've lost enough HP, or even turn 1 if you're going into the 2nd or 3rd fight on Super Battle Road below 60% HP. His active skill puts him to 24 key automatically, which on its own might not seem like enough for an active skill, but the whole point is it's to trigger his passive, that when you have 24 key, he's attacks effective against all types with a high chance of launching an additional super attack. So on that team with the AGL Turles, he can do like a 6 or 7 million attack stat at 55%, and then do an additional super that has like, I think 3.5-ish million attack stat, and then both of those are super effective against all types, so they're actually even more impressive than just the 6 or 7 million and then 3.5, because it doesn't matter which enemy typing you're fighting, you're still going to do ridiculous damage. So he is just absolutely insane. I can't see much of an argument for any unit like from the summonable LR, the yellow coin banners, being better than him, except for maybe Broly. Because obviously Broly, if you're fighting a pure Saiyan or hybrid Saiyan, or specifically a Goku family enemy, and you have his full passive active, then obviously he is able to do pretty crazy stuff. But even then, at 55% compared to what Turles can do, then yeah, I don't know. Because, I mean, at 55%, you can't factor that in for everybody, but I did give mine a silver additional skill orb. And so I have had the odd turns where he gets that 24 key when he's super effective against all types, and he super attacks like 3 times, and he's just absolutely ridiculous. Now obviously Broly has a built-in additional super, and at 55% would need a skill orb to be able to super attack 3 times as well, but I think they're quite comparable overall. I definitely wouldn't have any issue with anyone saying that Broly was 1 and Turles was 2, but just in the experience that I've had with them so far, I would say that Turles is number 1, especially because my personal experience, I have my Broly with 2 dupes, whereas Turles is only at at 0 dupes, at 55%, and I still think they're quite easily comparable. So once Turles is up to 2 dupes, I think he will quite outshadow the Broly. So hopefully I'll be able to get those extra copies of him soon. Absolutely, I think at Rainbow, like, he is just such a ridiculously busted unit, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. So that is my top 10 summonable LRs, not including Dokkan Fest exclusive LRs. I did spend a fair bit of time trying to think this out, and just like I said in yesterday's one, a lot of it is solely based on my opinions. It's based on my time with the units, so obviously there are some that maybe aren't as high or didn't make the list just because I've not really used them. So of course I'm open to your guys' feedback as long as we keep it civil. Super proud of you all. There was a lot of very good discussion and discourse in the comments of yesterday's video, and nobody being super negative, so I do very much appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing your guys' feedback on this list as well. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.